It's such an honor. It's a thing that I was dreaming of doing for such a long time. So I'm really happy to have you on our Quebec radio show, Prescription Punk Rock. For people that maybe don't recognize your face or voice, who the hell are you, man?
I'm Tim from Urethane. How's it going?
Great. It's so cool because I love the project. But let's get back way before the band. I'm curious, because the project is so original. I'm curious how music came to your life when you were a kid. How did you start discovering music and who influenced you into the holy quest of knowing music?
Man, it's kind of a weird roundabout way, but I remember being probably like 10 years old, and my brother and sister and I we'd put on little concerts for my parents. We had this grand piano in our living room, and I would grab a tennis racket, and ironically enough, I would play guitar and sing, and my brother would play drums, and my sister would play piano, and we would put on. My parents had actually a pretty decent record collection. They weren't like big into music, but they had a pretty decent record collection. So we'd put in basically whatever they had, and we didn't even know it. We just play along to it, and I would just pretend like I was the singer of this band and do little rock jumps with my tennis racket and stuff. But it's funny because my parents like they didn't my brother brought home a Kiss record, and they didn't even know what who Kiss was, and they just saw the makeup, and they were like, "This is devil music. You are not allowed to listen to it." And it's so funny because it's the most like passive party music, you know. But anyways, so when I was, I don't know, like 10 or 12, my best friend and I, we were really into Prince. And I have no idea where that came from. I think it was the whole like Purple Rain thing, but Prince was like my idol when I was a little kid, and I saw Purple Rain like 600 times as a kid, and I memorized all of his records. And he was I didn't realize it at the time, but he was such a prolific artist in every way. To me, he was just like he was really like punk rock in the mid 80s. He scared the shit out of my parents because of how he looked and how he carried himself, and so that was like a big thumbs up in my book. If you scared my parents, I mean, it's probably good. um, but it's like I realize today now listening back how just genius of a musician he was. And I'm so stoked that I got to see him in one of his last performances. I'd never seen him before in concert, and I had the opportunity to go see him right before he died. So it was I was getting all emotional like at the show. It was pretty funny. But yeah, so that was like what really inspired me to want to play guitar was just how cool he looked. I wanted to be able to do that. But it wasn't really until like I was a teenager and I discovered punk rock because I didn't I was like too lazy to take guitar lessons and you know want to that was like dorky stuff. I just wanted to be able to just shred and not have any education. So when I heard punk rock, I was like, I could do that. And I learned, a couple chords. Actually, my mom taught me like three chords, and that was it. And I just started trying to write songs, and they were just dumb songs, and you know they're probably still dumb songs to this day, but that was like the permission that allowed me to enter into music was punk rock made it accessible for everybody. Whereas, my brother listened to Rush and he listened to all these like really intimidating bands, so for me it was like I can't do that. But it was all about punk rock.
It's so cool. It's so cool. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we're gonna have Dennis from 10 Foot Paul. Why I
Oh, nice.
mention him because he was sound tech for Prince, the artist, for
That's right.
a couple of years, and I'm pretty sure he was there. The concert because he did the last tour and everything, and it was a bummer because it was his job, so he lost it, and
Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah, I remember it was like a 4 hour concert, I think. He played like he has so many hits that he couldn't fit all full length songs into a show. So he did like a medley of all of the hits, and it just went on and on and on. And then the show ended, and he did like 17 encores. It was amazing. Um,
How a beast he is, like 4 hour. Like you
yeah, it was
don't
nuts.
you don't get less with time, you get more when it
Yeah,
came to that
yeah.
case. It's
And he
such a
didn't he
work
didn't he
alcohol.
didn't phone it in. He didn't chintz. He like
Yeah.
played as much as he could.
Yeah, every time I see Dennis, I try to have like little story, about Prince. And the first time I asked him, did you like, did he listen to 10 Foot Paul? And he said, yeah, yeah. And he gave me some advice and everything. So
Really?
I was like thinking, like trying to get an image of Prince listening to punk rock and,
Yeah.
giving some advice,
Oh my
being
gosh.
the legend he is. But
That would be
yeah, if,
insane.
if you see Dennis, ask him. He got
I
great
will.
story about him.
I totally will.
And yeah, yeah, and I get it. We came from a time where, the 80s and 90s were really pretty original.
They were.
And it's something that I thought died for a couple of years at the beginning of 2000. And then I think we're back at it. But let's get back to the start of the band. How did you met and how that crazy idea of starting Urethane came out?
Um, so I was playing in a local band called War Fever in San Diego. That was from like 2017 till 2020. And it was more of like a hardcore band. Um, and as soon as the pandemic hit, it was, I mean, as everyone remembers, it was show's over, lights out for a while. Nothing was happening. So I used that time to try to write a bunch of music and finish a bunch of music that I had. And you know, I was just writing music without regard to where it's going to go. It was just like, I have all this time, so I'm just going to write whatever I want. So it ended up being like a lot of the concepts ended up being pretty personal to me. At the time, I've been sober for over 10 years now. So in the 10 years that I've been sober, I've kind of had these ideas and these concepts about sobriety that I wanted to include in music. So I was able to sort of experiment with that a little bit more lyrically. Um, and so I wrote, I don't know, a bunch of songs, and I just had them kind of acoustic, and I was like, nothing's gonna happen here for a while. So I have a friend who has a recording studio. His name's Jeff Forrest. He's at Double Time Studios, and I called him up, and I was like, he plays drums. He's a really good drummer. So I was like, I have this music. You play drums. You have a studio. Like, can we? Can I? Can I record these songs just for fun, just to see how they turn out? He's like, yeah, come on down. So we did that during the pandemic, and those ended up being the demos that I ended up just cold calling Steve Caballero out of the thin air and giving to. But I was going to release them just under a weird name, like on Spotify, and they were like slated to release on a certain date. And Steve Caballero, on his Instagram, I didn't know he was in a band. He was playing in a band, and they were looking for a singer. So um, I was looking at this like, I'll throw my hat in the ring. Like, why not? Like, I didn't expect him to answer it, or he gets like 6,000 comments per post. So I'm like, whatever. It was just kind of a fun thing to do. And the next day he got back to me and he's like, I really like this music and this is great. Like, let's meet up. And I was like that wasn't supposed to work. So I met up with him and he was like, yeah, like this is what I'm doing. And it kind of sounded like it was a little more on the hardcore side. I don't really have a voice for that, and I kind of knew that at the time, but I was like, whatever, I'll just try it out. And he had sent my demos to his bandmates, and his bandmates were like, nah, I don't know, doesn't really fit, which I agreed with. But so Steve was like, well, I like what Tim's doing, so he left that band, and he was like, do you want to start something? And I was like, of course I do. Um, So, everything fell into place relatively smoothly there. A friend of mine who was playing bass in my band at the time, I told him about it and he was, more than happy to join. And I I was looking for a drummer and I didn't really know anyone that was free. And so I made a few calls and we found Dylan and it was weird to practice during the pandemic because nothing was really open to practice in. So we were playing in Steve's living room with like electric drums for a while, and it was just me and Steve and Dylan, and like it was kind of a rough start. So when Chad joined the band, he was like, hey, I'm friends with Jen from Cybertracks, and I can I'll just send her what your demos are and see what happens. And she was really interested. And she was like, if you guys do something, keep me in mind. So we were like, all right, let's make a record. So it was I think it was in 2021 that we recorded in April. Yeah, it was April 2021 that we recorded. So um still pandemic time. But it gave us all kinds of time to just finish our record and it was a blast and everything came out great. So
Crazy, and I knew it when it happened. Like, there's gonna be so many great projects that gonna came out from, that negative thing that happened to us, and it's
yeah,
great because it's another great example of taking something positive into something negative. And
yeah,
I did many interview with many project that was born like that, just before that era. But now we're in a totally different world where a lot of people understood a lot of things, like how much music and art is important, and there's way
hmm
more people at venues. There's way more people. It's the nostalgia, of course, that bring a lot of people back to the scene. But there's new faces. There's also kids, and it's great. I think that you arrive at a great time at the end, and it's such a great lineup. I know Dylan from the Bomb Pops did interview
hmm
with them a couple of times, meet them at the Poudza, and when they came around Quebec and Montreal, and it's such a perfect fit. And Chaz from Skipjack that are also known. So it's such a great thing. And Steve, who don't know Steve, is a fucking legion, skate legion, and such a great player. That's the
yeah,
another thing. Through time, it proved that is a solid player.
yeah, for sure. I mean, everybody knows Steve from the faction. Um, yeah, I mean, he's for sure a legend. He's a great music partner. He's a great friend, and everything just really worked out better than I could have expected it with everyone. Um, it's pretty weird because I called a friend when I was looking for a drummer, and he was like, he just sent me Dylan's contact info. I didn't know who Dylan was. I had never heard him play, and I was just like, at the time, didn't really matter. Just you want to play, and he was like, sure. And it's for musicians probably understand this. It's like that's pretty rare to like be able to connect with somebody that um on a personal level and a music level it's rare. And when you find those people, it's a special thing. And this just happened to just work out. And it's pretty crazy.
And it's harder with time. As we grow old, it seems to be something that it's maybe, I don't know, the age or whatever. It's harder to find people that you connect with. Or maybe it's because you really know what you want and you don't want. When you're a kid, it's more easy to connect with a lot of people and you got
Yeah,
more time. Now we got families, we got things on our hands, so and things go fast. So yeah, it's another beautiful story, and again, it proved that music is really magic, and it's kind of a living thing if you think about it because of the connection. And I think we're here to connect with each other.
it is. It's definitely a living thing. And, I listen to the songs that I wrote that are on our first record. I listened to them when it was just me and Jeff playing drums, and it's far different. It took on its own life when it became a Urethane song. So yeah, it's one of those things that I feel like it is magic, and it's crazy.
So since the release, did you start working on the next chapter? Is there something in the air, new stuff?
Yeah, we did after Chasing Horizons, we wrote a few songs for a 7-inch that we put out on Cybertracks called Dog Years. Just two songs, Dog Years and Remember Me, that we did with Brenna Red from The Last Gang and Matt Hensley from Flogging Molly. Um, so we put that out last year. And yeah, that's kind of our newest thing right now. But we are definitely working on new material right now. Um, yeah, so we should be recording next year.
And the cool
Stay
thing
set.
now is, with the social media and music platform, it's really a new playground where, there's no rules on what how you should release thing. It's not like back in the days they really did the CD or whatever, the vinyl, or you can play with singles and of course doing covers or EPs and whatever. It's great for that. The other, like, it's sad because it goes so fast that
Yeah,
people think that 6 months later it's an old thing. But
yeah, I know. Yeah, it's weird how people consume music today is so much different from even 10 years ago. It's hard to keep up with, and it's hard to tell how people are consuming music. Like, what is the best way today as opposed to last year? Is a full length better than a 7-inch? Is vinyl better than CD? It's like you kind of just have to throw everything out and see what sticks, and just not even really worry about it. Just make your music and have fun with it.
you're right. You're right. It's such an interesting generation that we are. We
Yeah,
really stay like young in our heart. And I think the music, of course, punk rock or metal or whatever, it really keep us, like you said, connect, but feel part of something that it's great. And that, even if we get older, we'll still feel part of it. And we still want to see, that movement to grow bigger and still that still is fun to do.
for sure. I think punk rock especially has more of a community than I've seen in other styles of music, I guess you could say. But we were just in Europe, and it's alive and well when you go to these festivals out there. It's amazing. So I don't have any doubt that we'll see some good bands coming out, and a lot more creative projects coming soon.
Yeah, yeah, and as I mentioned, I think the kids are here, and you see younger band, and it's different. When I see like Flail Records and band like Escape from the Zoo that was signed on Fat Records and
Hmm.
Days and Days, and there's a lot of band like that, Bridge City Sinner, for example,
Yeah,
and it's a new scene, but it's still punk rock. It's getting back to where music started up really
Yeah,
more simple way to do it, but it's still, rock and roll and punk rock spirit,
yeah,
injecting
exactly.
that and with that energy. So it's great to see that it's still alive and it's still original. And I think that's what you guys want to achieve with that, because I think it's really different from, what I heard and, what I see those days.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the excuse me, the spirit. That's something that is unique to punk rock, and that's what I don't think will ever go away. It's what got me into it. It's what got, probably 99, yeah, exactly. Like you just feel part of it and you feel like you can do it and you can feel like you can contribute just by being there. You don't there's no entry fee. So that's what's cool about it.
And it teach you a lot, and that's what I love. And the lyrics too, um as a French, I have to challenge myself to understand, what those band were talking about. And it really gets you in a quest of learning and questioning, and it's great. How important is the lyrics for you, when you listen to music, but when you also write music?
um excuse me. I'm 100% a lyric person. I feel like there's there's the music portion of it and the lyric portion of it, and also, I mean, the music is what brings people in to what you're doing, I think, um, viscerally, and then when there's good lyrics on top of that, it makes for something that's even more special. Um, so I work hard on lyrics, even though like they you can't maybe sometimes hear them or don't understand, but it for me it's like the song's not done until I feel like I said what I wanted to say, and it's never gonna be like, screw it, it's good enough. Like it has to be. I'm my hardest critic when it comes to lyrics. um and yeah, I work really hard on them. So I I have so much faith in, Urethane. Like we can write music and play music and every to me it's like that's the fun part, but putting that all together with the lyrics is where I feel like I really have to apply myself.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, words is a weapon. A lot of people understand that, and it's
Yeah, I
cool that
mean,
it.
I learned a lot about life from punk rock. I learned a lot about politics from Bad Religion and from Good Riddance, and I learned a lot about love and girls from the Descendants. Like it was kind of like my life handbook when I was a kid. It's like I just kind of followed what songs told me and stuff, and so I make sure that what I'm saying is what I really want to say.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because there's band that sing, but it doesn't really mean what they're singing. But it's
Right.
important. We're such in a special scene, where we can change things. And you're right. I mean, like Bad Religion was a guide for me too, as Good Riddance. And I had the chance to meet those people, and they're great. They're
Yeah.
really good human being behind that. And yeah, and thanks, Mr. Greg Graffin. He teach me a lot of things, words, and I'm reading his book, and it's been a
Yeah.
while because
It's
my
our guy.
English is not perfect, but he used so much, hard words, and so I'm always with my phone looking. So, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Same with Russ from Good Riddance.
Yeah.
Like if you dig deep in those songs, there's a lot of lessons to be learned.
So I was gonna be the rest of the years for Urethane. Is there any chance for next year to see you around Canada and Quebec?
Well, actually, in October we'll be in Canada with the Bouncing Souls, um, but we only go as far as Calgary. Um, so yeah, October we'll do. I think it's yeah, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, mid October.
That's
That's
cool.
with that's with
There's
Bouncing Souls, Bad Cop, and Catbite, and us.
Oh wow, what a perfect lineup.
Yeah, I'm
Bad
stoked. I
Cup
can't wait.
are the party. Like they
That's gonna
were
be
at the
great.
Red Bridge and they really like when Mad Caddies were on stage, they all went dancing, all the girls that were in band or involved in the festival. It was beautiful. They're
Nice.
amazing. And the Bouncing Soul is one of my favorite band. I love them so much. It's another example of a band that, and I'm not saying the first records or the other were not that great, but with times they got way better. And I remember
Yeah,
when they released the gold records, like everybody were so surprised that that masterpiece, came from the band Bouncing Soul camp.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the greatest records in that I've ever heard were from the Bouncing Souls.
Yeah, to justify my point, they released Anchor Wait, and it was a really dark record, so nobody saw the gold records coming because it was not the lyrics, but the music was way more happier
Oh yeah,
and intense. It was a really dark record, but they always surprise. So it's gonna be a great tour. Of course, we're gonna wait for you in Quebec and Canada. There's a lot of festival here too, great festival like the Poudza, Volley Macadam, Le Deluge. There are Festivois, Festival. There's so much great festival
yeah,
around Quebec.
yeah. We're hoping to do next year, Eastern Canada and Eastern US. That's one tour that we haven't really done too much, so we're hoping to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing, I'm sure it's kind of tough to get all of you together because, like I said, we all got lives, and it's
Yeah,
not like back in the days. There's not much money involved, so
yeah, and also I feel like this year, um, music is back, whereas last year it was still, things were happening where shows were canceling, and there was just weirdness. Deservedly so. It's a weird time, but I feel like now things are more consistent, so we can plan more accordingly.
it's so true, and that's a thing we forgot really quick. But it was kind of it was a puzzle for Pam because, like you
Yeah,
said, you do a tour around a couple of big cities like Montreal and maybe Quebec City, and then or like Alberta, Calgary, or and then like if one is canceled, and with the price of gas and what it costs, it's it's a kind of pain in the ass, and it's not cool
yeah,
for anybody. So yeah, it's cool that we're back at it and people realize, like I said, the importance. So they're crazy. We're crazy in Quebec. You're gonna see we're crazy.
yes, I'm stoked. Let's make it happen.
And congratulations again. The first album is such an amazing records. It went on our top 25 best records
Awesome.
that years. And yeah, I
Thank
love
you.
the spirit. I love the vibe, the chemistry behind you guys that you create really quickly and how professional you are. So of course we invite people go grab the merch. What's the best way to directly encourage you guys if people got money?
Right now we have a store up at Stupid Rad Merch. We have a few things there, but otherwise, if you can come to a show, that's the best place.
Yeah, and if you don't have money, I repeat it often, but just learn the song and try to sing them loud with
Yeah,
Tim.
exactly.
Challenge Tim. Try to do
Yeah,
better.
for sure. Yes.
Tim, thank you so much for your generosity. Seriously, I really had a blast. I repeat myself, you got a fan here. We're gonna wait around Quebec and have fun with that project. Can't wait to hear the new stuff and people go, of course, like their social media.
Yes. All of our stuff is on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff.
Yeah,
There
that's
we go.
way
You're
better.
back.
We're gonna do a
Yeah.
huge special, of course, in a couple of weeks. And thank you so much for your time. Make sure I send all the details. And again, love it.
Thanks so much, Eric.
Cheers. Bye bye, Tim.
Bye bye.
Have a blast.